Hello everyone, my name is Abyssal Structures, and today we're going to be talking about how to start producing electronic music, and specifically techno. This video will go in depth on what you actually need before you even start your DAW, but there will also be videos about actual production techniques in the future. Let me know in the comments if you would like me to cover something specific. There will be timestamps provided, so feel free to skip around if you want to know about a specific section in this video. Let's jump right in. Now this first one, it might be obvious to many of you, but I feel like it still needs to be said. The absolute minimum requirement to have any kind of success is passion for the genre you're producing. Because without passion, people will notice if you're just doing it for the money or for the recognition. And also, if you're not progressing fast enough, then you will easily feel like you're burning out. So you need to have passion. And also, I will probably have a full video about how to manage a balance of passion and your other life, because it can also go very wrong if you just concentrate on music without doing anything else, obviously. Now let's talk about gear. This is probably the section that most of you are here for, and you'll be surprised to know that you can probably get started with very little, and most of you will probably already have most of what you need to start producing electronic music. And the thing that most of you will probably have definitely at home is some kind of computer. It doesn't have to be anything special to start. Any old laptop that's from the past 5 or 6 years will probably be able to run some kind of DAW, and then you can build it up as you go. But I'll be discussing a few different setups for a few different budgets, and start off. So you do need a computer as a bare minimum, and you need a DAW, which I will be discussing later of the options that you have there. And you will need some kind of decent headphones, and you might be able to get away without a specific audio interface for your music if your headphones plug into your laptop or PC internal sound card, but I would highly recommend to have at least some kind of basic audio interface. You can get those very cheaply, maybe even second hand. And second, for a kind of medium budget, I would have everything of the above, and also in addition, I would definitely at this point I would have a decent audio interface, because you will need it to plug in good monitors, which is your second thing that you would want for a medium budget. And at this point you might want some plugins. And what you might also want is a MIDI keyboard or controller. Now, when you're producing techno, you don't necessarily need a MIDI keyboard if you're not producing melodic techno, but you might want some kind of controller so you can have more intuitive control of your automation, for example. And now this is one thing that I'm preaching, but I'm not practicing at the moment because I'm living in a rental. But I would highly recommend to have some sort of acoustic treatment in your studio room. You can get something very cheaply, you can even DIY it, but then if you have the budget for it, buy some good acoustic material. And especially the thing that most people will struggle with is the bass frequencies, so bass traps might be something that you want to invest in first. Now then there's the high budget, or kind of a wish list of what I would buy if money was no object. So then if you can really spend as much as you want on your studio gear and studio, then you might want to custom build your studio with built-in acoustics, so definitely have in your studio room have very high quality custom made or just professional grade acoustic materials. And you will want, at this point, you'll want a high-end audio interface to plug in all of your outboard gear. You'll want to have at least 2 high-quality monitor sets for different kinds of monitoring situations, and also some crappy consumer speakers so you can test that your sound works on absolutely everything. And at this point you would probably also want to invest in some hardware synths or effects, and maybe some modular gear. Modular gear seems to be very good for techno, so that's definitely something that if you have the money, go for it. And you would also want to have a dedicated music desk with potentially rack mountable shelves, so you can get some rack mounted gear into it as well. And now this is something that you might also consider earlier, but a UPS for power delivery in case your power goes out is also a good thing, especially if you live in an area that's prone for power outages. I would get this earlier as soon as you can afford it, but if that's not really an issue, I would definitely get it once you're at that level. And potentially I would also even get a rack mounted power supply for all of your stuff that you're connecting to your desk if you bought one, and potentially a power conditioner. And also, if you can afford it, you might also want to buy a dedicated storage solution for all your projects, so maybe some sort of a NAS array might come in handy. And obviously, if and when you can afford it, you can always upgrade all of the previous gear that I've mentioned. Now let's talk about DAWs. You've heard this mentioned a couple of times already in this video as well. So DAW is the digital audio workstation, which is the software that you're using to produce all of your music. You can make music without one if you want to go entirely hardware, but that goes very expensive quite fast. That's why I'm not really concentrating on that. Also, I don't have much experience in that myself because I produce in a DAW myself. But nowadays there are a lot of options in this. So if I don't mention your favorite one, let me know in the comments. I'll be mentioning some of the most popular ones. So, let's start with Logic Pro X, which is what I'm using. That only works for Mac OS, so you're a little bit limited there if you're on Windows, but there are other options for Windows as well that I'll mention. But Logic, I think, is good because you also get a lot of very good quality plugins, what they call audio units. It has some of the best built-in audio units and also has a lot of samples included. And it's also quite cheap as it comes to the other digital audio workstations for what you're getting. The next one that is very popular is Ableton Live. That works on Windows and Mac. And as I said, it's very popular, so you find a lot of tutorials for that. And I find that a lot of techno artists specifically are using that. So if you're on Windows, that is a very good consideration. There are 3 different versions for that. So you can have one for different kinds of needs and different kinds of budgets. The next one that I see also every now and then is Cubase by Steinberg. Also works on Windows and Mac OS, and also has 3 different versions for different budgets as well. And then there's FL Studio, which some people think is a little bit of a toy, but that's not the case. A lot of even professional musicians, artists have used that to make quite good music. For example, if we want to mention someone famous, deadmau5 used to produce on that. And yeah, that wasn't too bad. There's also 4 different versions of that, and FL Studio also works on Windows and Mac OS. And then there's quite a new player called Bitwig Studio, which seems to be pretty popular nowadays as well. And the added benefit of that is they have this new standard for virtual instruments called Clap, which there aren't that many plugins for that yet, but it sounds promising, so we'll see how that develops. And Bitwig also works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And there are 2 different versions of Bitwig as well. The next one is Reaper, which is potentially the cheapest one of these all. You can get it for $60 at a discount price if you're only buying it for yourself and not for like a studio. You can use it on as many computers as you want, but only one at a time. And that also, I've seen some people use it. Not quite as popular as the other ones I've mentioned, but seems to be quite functional as well, and also works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. Then there's the old classic Pro Tools, which a lot of major producers swear by, but I don't know, it might be a little bit clunky compared to these other ones when it comes to features, usability. But I mean, some people make it work. Also, what I don't really like about it is you require an iLock key for it to work. But if that's not a problem for you, sure, look into it. There's also 4 different versions of that, and the intro version is free. And then there's Reason by Reason Studios, formerly called Propeller Heads. And that's a little bit different from all of these other ones in that it's kind of a virtual rack instead of your regular digital audio workstation. So you have all kinds of instruments, you put them in a rack, and you can even go behind the rack and wire things differently. So it's kind of like modular as well. And nowadays you can also have it as a virtual instrument in other DAWs. But they do provide 2 different versions. There's the standalone version you can buy once, and then they have a subscription version, which I think also you need for the virtual instrument. And Reason works on Windows and Mac OS as well. Now let's talk a little bit about plugins. Now I firmly believe that you can get quite far nowadays just by learning the tools that already come with your DAW, especially if you're using something like Logic that has very high quality plugins. And even the other ones have very decent synths and effects in them. So learn the tools you have first, and then if you find that something is lacking or you need some inspiration, you might want to buy something, or you can get some free plugins off the internet as well. But once you're at that point, I will mention some of my favorites that I can recommend. I'm not sponsored by any of these are just things that I use regularly. And the first thing is Vital, which is absolutely free. It's a virtual analog 3 oscillators synth plugin made by Matt Tidal. You can have it for absolutely free, but you can also pay for it to get some extra features. For example, text to speech, which is quite amazing. A very good plugin, so I recommend that. Next is FabFilter for their effects bundle. Everything in that bundle is absolutely amazing for from mixing to mastering to delays and stuff. And their Saturn saturation plugin is also great when you want to have a more grittier sound. And when it comes to synth plugins, what you'll see everywhere is the X4 Records Serum. There's a lot of tutorials on YouTube for sound design on Serum, so that's probably if you're gonna buy one synth plugin, buy that one. And then I absolutely love the Valhalla reverbs. I personally use the Vintage Verb and the Supermassive a lot, and Supermassive is also free, so you have no excuse not to get that one. Absolutely lush sounding big reverb. And another great synth plugin is the Arturia Pigments. You can also get kind of like analog modeling on it, and also all kinds of digital sounds. Very versatile tool. It's kind of on par with Serum, if not, there's some different features. I don't know if I could put them in an order of which one is better, but I would see for yourself. Then also from Arturia, they have the V collection. If you're really into the old kind of analog gear, they have some very good emulations for quite an affordable price. So you can get like the Korg MS-20 or Jupiter 8 or all kinds of classic synths emulations, and you don't have to pay the price of the hardware. And then obviously for acid techno, if you need a 303 emulation, I would absolutely recommend the Phocion 2, which I also have reviewed on this channel before. I will put a link up there somewhere. And for mastering, I use the Isotope mastering bundle. It has everything I need. I don't really professionally master, but I master my own stuff from time to time. So that works for me and is used by a lot of people. And one honorable mention that I'm not currently using, but I have been looking at to get it when it goes on sale, is the Yuhi Diva. A lot of people in the techno scene seem to be using that, as well as trance if you're interested in that. Seems to be a very good sounding synth as well, so look into that. It doesn't go on sale a lot, but if you can catch it on sale, definitely go for it. That was it for this time. If you found this video enjoyable or informative, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and leave a comment on if I didn't cover something that you would want me to cover, or if there's something completely different that you would want me to cover. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you like and what you don't like. You can leave a comment about that as well. If you didn't like this video, you can dislike it. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. You can support me on Patreon if you want to, if you have the means. And I am streaming on Twitch every Saturday most of the time. So I'll see you there. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.